Happy New Year, everybody. Lance from Permanent Records here with another video for y'all. The first of 2024, which means it is Vinyl Tag 2024 time. I'm a new YouTuber. I started my channel late last year, trying to keep up with videos and do one every week or so. That's harder than I thought it would be to accomplish with everything else that I have going on. I do own the Permanent Records Roadhouse in Los Angeles, which means that I book shows, I sometimes bartend, I buy and sell, do all the buying of the used records, including taking trips abroad and going on house calls and going to anywhere you can buy records, of course. And I also, do payroll and all the boring administrative stuff, which is what I was doing right before I started filming this video. I got all my homework done, so I have a few minutes to do this video tonight for y'all. And I'm gonna try to turn and burn through this because it's my first vinyl tag. I don't want it to be terribly boring for anybody, and I want to make sure that I cram all 20 things in. So yeah, thank you vinyl community for having me. Thank you very much for liking and subscribing, liking my videos and subscribing to my channel. I appreciate that very much. It helps me gauge the interest of the community and also know whether this is something I should be spending my time doing. I'm having a good time doing it. Obviously, I have bigger fish to fry more often than not, but I really like the idea of having a YouTube channel and engaging with the community and getting the feedback from y'all, because something that I missed most about the old days of the record shop when we had just regular stores as opposed to the Permanent Records Roadhouse, where we're a live music venue, a bar, and a record store, is all the time I had behind the counter interacting with customers, regulars and new ones alike, and sharing music and sharing records and kind of telling people what I like and learning what they like and being able to recommend things based on those interactions. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Vinyl Tag 2024. All right, number one, the first item on the list, my favorite record purchased in 2023. That's such a hard question. I buy a lot of records, and a lot of them are just for the store. Some are just for me, like this Flood LP, In the Rise of Flood. This record is an incredible rural psych record. It's countrified, but it's also psychedelic. It was released on a label called Maple Records back in the day. I forget the exact release year on this one, but I want to say 1970 or somewhere around then. Anyway, if you like stuff like, well, more mainstream sounding things like the Byrds, Flying Burrito Brothers, that sort of thing, or if you're a fan of the Cosmic American Music comps that Numero Group comp, I guess they just did one double LP, but if you like that sort of thing, rural, semi-psychedelic rock and roll, this is for you. There is a reissue. It was bootlegged, and Daniel from Writing Easy Records and I did go down the path of tracking this band, and I'll tell the rest of that story another time. But the reissue that we were going to do is on hold for the moment. Hopefully that changes in the new year. So in the meantime, I believe you can stream this record online if you'd like to check it out digitally. There are bootleg LPs that were unlicensed that sound all right. This particular original will run you over $1,000 probably. Next in line, the last record I bought in 2023. I don't remember what the last record I bought was, but because I was traveling to St. Louis and Pittsburgh towards the end of the year, so there were definitely some records bought on those trips, but I don't remember which one would have been last right before the 31st of December. But I do remember this one the TR Crooks record, the LP. This one's called To a Brother. TR, for those of you who don't know, stands for Tennessee River Crooks. This record they put out on their own Sound Farm record label back in the day. Tennessee River Crooks are a quintessential DIY Southern rock band. Those of you who like Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker, The Outlaws, the like kind of more rural backwoods Southern rock stuff with some hard rock moves as well, will absolutely love this album. These guys released this album back in the day. Again, I should have taken notes. Early 70s, I want to say 72, and I'm right, 1972. They did 2 pressings of this record. The first one, it comes in a black and white cover with a cigar box with the words Tennessee River Crooks on it. Second pressing, both 1,000 copies were pressed on each pressing, by the way, and both came out in the same year. Unfortunately, one of the band members, this gentleman on the front cover here, died after they put out the first pressing, and as a tribute to a brother, Tennessee River Crooks released it a second time with this album art. Regardless of the album art, if you like Southern rock, you gotta check out this Private Press monster. It's amazing. All right, item number 3, a band or singer who released 2 or more albums in the same year. This is really tough because there are a lot of bands, especially in the 60s, some into the 70s as well, that released 2 albums in a year. It used to be fairly commonplace. If I had Beatles records on my shelf, it would be very easy to pull out 2 that came out in the same year. Same thing goes for the Rolling Stones, and so on and so forth. It was really commonplace, which is why I'm always surprised when people think that artists like Ty Segall or King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard or the OCs release more than 1 album in a year. It used to happen a lot. Nowadays, not so much. It still does here and there, but that said, I don't collect mainstream rock records, generally speaking. I'm really more of a 45 guy. These LPs just happen to be things that I hold near and dear for one reason or another. That's why they're filed away on the shelf. But my 45s they're in white boxes and they're just not impressive to look at. So I'm not gonna sit there in front of my white boxes for a YouTube video. I don't know, this seems more appropriate. But either way, the point being, I don't have mainstream rock records. I just don't collect them. I see those kinds of things coming through the shop all the time. I'm not like a huge white label promo collector or anything like that. I like to, and when I get sealed records and promos and things, I like to put them into the shop. That's the most important thing to me all the time, is to make sure that this shop is amazing every day of the week and always cycling through fresh product and always with mind-blowing stuff on the wall. So I am very, very selective about the LPs that I file at home, and most of the stuff that I buy goes into the shop. That said, I do have, well, I don't know if this counts, but I think it does. Again, I don't collect LPs, so a lot of the things that I have, especially the rare stuff, is reissues because it's just not the focus of my collection. But that said, 2 records from the same year. So fans of Japanese psych will recognize this one. This is Speed, Glue, and Shinky's first album. It is this one's called Eve, I believe. Anyway, if you've never read the book Jap Rock Sampler by Julian Cope, check it out. It's a very, very good resource for all things Japanese psychedelic rock from the late 60s and early 70s. In the top 10, both of these records are included. Unfortunately, both of them are bootlegs on a label whose name that I will not repeat here because that's not important. And both of them came out in 1971. Both are heavy psych masterpieces. If you like, Shinky Chin, this guy, has been referred to as Nippon's Jimi Hendrix. So if a Japanese Jimi Hendrix sounds like your bag, you're gonna wanna check these two albums at the very least. They're gateway drugs into the wonderful world that is Japanese psych from the early 70s. And they both came out in 1971. All right, next on the list, show a record, oh, no, back up. If you could, let's see, I jumped ahead with this record. I have to put this aside now. Okay, that's why I'm confused. If you could listen to music if you could only listen to music from one decade, which decade would I choose? Hands down, 1970s. I don't have to think about it for more than 5 seconds. 1970s is the decade for me. Sure, there's great stuff from every decade. The 60s is rich with amazing stuff, 80s, 90s, beyond, etc. But for me personally, the 70s is my bread and butter. I like rock and roll music, and I like the other genres of music that were created in the 70s as well. It was just a wild time for crazy guitar music. And it also was a wild time for experimentation on a lot of levels in a lot of different genres. People were really pushing boundaries in jazz, in funk, in soul, in, and then of course in rock with prog, and then at the end of the decade with punk, etc. I don't need to say anymore. I think you get it. The question just is, what is your favorite decade of music? 1970s for me, all day, every day. So that brings us up to the next one. Show a record by a band or a singer from Manchester. JC Heavy. This is a group from Manchester, a female-fronted hard psych group. Go check them out if you've never heard these songs. They have 2 singles, and they're both phenomenal. There's 4 properly released JC Heavy tracks. This one came out, is that Pink Elephant? Yeah. This one came out on Pink Elephant, which was a Dutch label who released Pink Elephant put out a lot of great records, including a lot of Shocking Blue records and so on and so forth. Almost all the most well-known and best Nederbeat, if you will, Dutch psych and garage records came out on Pink Elephant. There are great Pink Elephant compilations, etc. But we're not here to talk about Pink Elephant. We're here to talk about JC Heavy. Again, this is some groovy, for lack of a better word, gets called freak beat sometimes. Female fronted, hard psych. Mr. Deal is an amazing track. I play this when I DJ all the time. I highly recommend you check out JC Heavy as soon as possible. They're also from Manchester. And side note, on that tip, the label Finders Keepers put out a fantastic compilation called Man Chest Hair, where you can find a dozen or so bands mostly from the late 60s and 70s, all from Manchester. JC Heavy happens to be included on that comp. All right, next in line. Which band or singer did you listen to most in 2023? This is a really, really tough question for me, because I listen to a lot of things a little bit over the course of any given year, and the same was true for 2023. That said, because of my work with Writing Easy Records as a freelance A&R person, I end up listening to a lot of the projects that Daniel from Writing Easy and I are working on together, probably more than I listen to anything else in any given year. And there were quite a few things going on last year. First and foremost, 2023 was the year of Southern rock for me. Daniel and I licensed a whole bunch of Southern rock LPs for reissue. One of them being this Mad Jack Straight Up record. Not only was I digging on this LP at home, I had a copy of this on CD in the car, and it was playing on repeat all throughout 2023. Another big one for 2023 for me was this discovery, Band X, the best of Band X. Check out these guys. This is a privately issued jazz fusion record. It's really hard to describe exactly what this is. Craig Payton was the leader of Band X, and Craig Payton considered himself, or wanted to be, the Jimi Hendrix of the vibraphone. So if that tells you anything about what this sounds like, it gets you very close to the reality of the situation. This is a jazz record for rock and funk and post-punk aficionados. It gets pretty far out there. It's pretty experimental, but it's also super groovy, super repetitive, and hypnotic. You can look forward to a reissue of this record on Riding Easy Records in 2024. I found that record in a record store in Austin, Texas, when I was there for the Austin Record Convention. No one else got it before me. I couldn't believe it was just sitting there waiting for me to grab it. And last on the list of, I think I was only supposed to pick one, but record that I listened to the most in 2023, Living Links. This LP came out in 1985. They were a Baton Rouge, Louisiana post-punk duo. It's kind of a post-punk new wave hybrid. They did that LP, this single, and this single as well, all from 83 to 85, I believe. And if you like Joy Division, Talking Heads, and all things groovy 80s wave and post-punk, you're gonna want to check out Living Links. Their entire discography is streaming right now online on Spotify, Apple Music, etc. And we actually have original stock copies of the LP, the cassette of the full length, and one of the singles in our web store right now at permanentrecordsla.com. All right, next up, Show 7 7-inch records. This is an easy one for me. I didn't even have to go digging in the boxes because I had a radio show on NTS yesterday. Yeah, you can. My radio show is called Brown Acid Trippin'. I do it once a month on NTS, and you can find that at nts.com. I have, since I started the show early last year, my MO has been to go through my collection alphabetically, with each show being just one letter. This is kind of due to laziness and also kind of a flex, if you could call it that, just to show off how many great records I have in every letter of the alphabet. This past episode, which has been archived and is streamable online now, was the letter M. So I still had a bunch of M45s out in a box that I just grabbed 7 out of. So here we go. Macabre. Where should I show this up? Macabre, be forewarned. Those of you who let's rewind. Macabre was what Pentagram were called before they called themselves Pentagram. So if you've seen the documentary First Days Here, or Last Days Here is what it's called, you're familiar with Macabre because you're familiar with Pentagram. Bobby Liebling, etc. I won't get into the details of that. Go watch that documentary right now. If you like hard and heavy Sabbath-esque proto-metal, you're gonna want to check that band out, and that is an extremely rare single. This, Magic, Cotton Candy. I've had this record for years and years and years. I tried to track this band. I could not find them. Luckily, Adam Benatti, my pal Adam, what's up, dude? He tracked them down and licensed both tracks are on that single are phenomenal. It's got Cotton Candy, and the flip side is called Make Up Your Mind. It's on Intense Records because that's what it is. This is some really, really heavy psychedelic rock. It's the bread and butter of Brown Acid, and I hope to be able to include at least one of those songs on a future volume of Brown Acid, if Adam will be so kind. Next, another Brown Acid heavy hitter. This is Max, Run Run. Also on Brown Acid. These guys were Canadian. This is a banger. Up next, another Brown Acid cut. This is a wild and crazy synthesizer laden. There's so many synths layered on this record. It's a kind of glammy stomper called I've Been You by Mike's Mihal and White. That's Mike Mihal and Mike White, and that's also included on Brown Acid. Mammoth, not the Southern Rock Mammoth. This is the heavy glam Mammoth, and the track that we included on Brown Acid is also called Mammoth. It's eponymous, and it's about friendly woolly mammoth, and it's amazing. Yet another M record also included on Brown Acid. This is Macbeth, Freight Train, kind of a motorheady proto metal jam. So sick, just heavy rock and roll stuff. And last but not least, number 7, we got one of the coolest records on the Cadet record label right here in the original company sleeve. This is a studio group, yeah, Castanets and Cats. These guys did mostly bubblegum records, but they also did some wild psych stuff. And this is a dark, gloomy, mostly instrumental, heavy psych number. And it sounds like nothing you've ever heard on Cadet records before. Magic Swirling Ship is the name of the group. Not a real group, just kind of a studio project. He's Coming Part 2 is the title of the track. The other side doesn't have He's Coming Part 1 on it. I would love to hear that sometime. I hope it exists somewhere. I don't think it does, though. Not on vinyl. All right, who's coming to your party? Choose 4 music-related people to come to an imaginary dinner party, past or present. Who would you invite? I'm just gonna cruise right through these. Father Yod, from the Source family. If he were still alive, I would love to talk to this guy. I can't even imagine what it might be like to interact with a cult leader and pick his brain about life in general. Next up, a private press legend. This is Bobby Brown. No, not that Bobby Brown. This is Bobby Brown from Hawaii. He self-released 3 albums. There's this one. It's the Enlightening Beam of Aksanda. And I don't know, we see these in LA fairly often. It's kind of an inexpensive private press record, and it's worth every penny. It should be $100 record or more based on the quality of the music, and it's not. He handmade all these cool instruments, toured with his dog, so on and so forth. I talked to him on the phone one time when I was trying to license some music. He started copying a Donald Duck voice for some reason, and I don't have his phone number anymore, unfortunately. I would love to talk to him again. So let's bring him to the dinner party. Next up, Phil Pearlman from Relatively Clean Rivers. If you don't know this record and you like West Coast rural psych, you have to check this out. Country rock fans will love it. Psych fans will love it. Fans of odd private press records will love it. Phil Pearlman is a genius. This record is fantastic, and it's the most accessible of the 3 very rare private and very good private press records that he put out back in the late 60s and early 70s. One is called Beat of the Earth. The other one is also by Beat of the Earth, called Electronic Hole. And there's this one, Relatively Clean Rivers, self-titled album. This thing is unbelievable. You have to listen to this. Even if you don't think you like private press records, this will blow your mind. It's absolutely magnificent. All right, and last but not least, I want to hang out with Jim Gustafson. I've talked to Jim Gustafson from Puba over the phone in the past. I mean, who doesn't want to party with people who get down like this, right? Yeah, that just looks like a good time. Jim Gustafson's also one of the greatest unsung guitar heroes in the United States. He's from Youngstown, Ohio, which is the mecca of Brown Acid and all things hard and heavy rock from the early 70s. And this album by Puba, their best, is fantastic. If you've never heard this, check it out now. I'm sure it's streaming everywhere online. You can also buy a reissue from, oh shoot, I'm spacing the name of the label right now. I'll get back to you on that. But anyway, this album's amazing, and Jim Gustafson's a legend. And I've talked to him on the phone, and I'd love to hang out with him in person at the party with Father Yod, Phil Pearlman, and Bobby Brown. All right, we lost them. I'm supposed to choose one musician who passed away in 2023. We lost a lot of great ones last year, as we do every year it seems. And one of the biggies for me, you never know how you're gonna feel until you get that news, but one of the biggies for me was Rodriguez. What a genius. This album, Cold Fact, and the rest of his catalog is worth listening to anybody who likes any kind of music. This is a South African pressing. He was massively huge in South Africa, had no idea he had such a massive following there. His record did nothing stateside, but he was a household name in South Africa. Go watch the documentary. It's called, if you haven't seen it already, it's called Searching for Sugar Man. It's all about Rodriguez's story, which is straight up unbelievable. And yeah, those of you familiar with Dennis Coffey will want to watch it for those reasons. And people who just dig hip 60s, kind of psychedelic stuff will dig on it, but it's also kind of funky. Rodriguez is kind of one of a kind. So anyway, R.I.P. Rodriguez. Take a moment of silence. All right. Imagine I can only listen to music from one country. Which country would you choose? United States, hands down. Just like the decade, this question is as easy to answer for me as does a bear in the woods? Yes. Yes, bears poop in the woods, and yes, the United States is the country that I would want to listen to exclusively if I had to make that decision. I could go on, but I've already gone on too long on all these other questions, so I won't. Not here, not now. Okay, what's next? Name 3 vinyl community channels you discovered in 2023. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I'm very busy. I don't spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos. I do like Dylan from Noble Records videos. He's the one who kind of got me, he's a friend. I consider him a friend now. We've met through YouTube and through Daniel from Writing Easy Records. And his channel is the only one I regularly watch. I just don't have that much time, to be honest, but I plan on discovering more channels in the new year. Vinyl Richie, I've watched some of your videos. Keep on keeping on, brother. And I just, based on Daniel's recommendation, watched the Vinyl Reckoning YouTube channel. Their production quality is second to none, and I can only hope that at some point I can justify spending more time on the production of these videos. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, show a record you bought when you were a teenager. To be fair, I did not buy this copy of this record when I was a teenager, but I did own Out of Step by Minor Threat when I was a teenager. This is the first pressing on Discord. It's very valuable, it's very expensive, and it's one of the best hardcore records that exists. Not only do I have this OG copy of the Minor Threat record, I also have a Red Cross flyer with a Minor Threat set list handwritten on the back, which is pretty cool, and part of the reason I chose this record as the one to choose or to pull out and show in this video. I don't own a lot of records that I bought in high school. I kind of moved on from most of the stuff that I listened to in high school over the years. I'm not that kind of person. I don't listen to a whole lot of music nostalgically. I like to discover new things regularly all the time, and I just don't go back that much. Occasionally, after a drink or two, I'll, go down memory lane and listen to some crap that I liked in high school, but most of it was crap, and I don't want to listen to it again. But this is an exception to that rule. If you don't own this already, it's been in print since it came out. Discord Records is one of my favorite American punk labels. The DIY ethos, etc., everything about it was an important part of my development as a music lover and record collector and an aficionado of all things music. So check out Minor Threat, check out Fugazi, anything Ian MacKaye, sorry, I gotta pronounce that correctly, is worth your attention, and Minor Threat is basically where it all began. Every high school student should be forced to listen to Minor Threat, in my opinion. All right, what's next? Show a funk or soul record. All right, easy. Black Murda. This is a psychedelic funk masterpiece. If you don't have this already, go out, get yourself a reissue. They exist. This came out on Chess Records, primarily a blues label, as you all know, but this is a hard and heavy psychedelic funk masterpiece. If you like funkadelic and you've never heard Black Murda, now is the time for you to go out and get this. One of the tracks off this album, Cynthia Ruth, was featured on another great psychedelic funk compilation curated by Dante Carfagna of the Dog Patch podcast. If you haven't heard that, go listen to that. It's a wealth of information, and it's very well put together as well. And those guys are very well spoken, much more well spoken and eloquent than I am. Anyway, Black Murda, this is phenomenal. I have a few soul and funk records in my collection that are more straightforward soul and funk, but this is by far my favorite psychedelic funk album, I think, that I own. Anyway, all right, what's next? Show a record you think everyone has, and then show a record you think nobody has. I assume everyone has a Rolling Stones record, if not this Rolling Stones record. This is their Satanic Majesty's Request. It's their psychedelic masterpiece, in my opinion. It's the Stones record I go back and listen to the most frequently. It has the OG lenticular album art, which is really cool. And the reason I own this, as I said, I don't usually file classic rock records, but this was my dad's copy. I inherited this. He's no longer with us. This will stay with me until I'm no longer with us. Now, on to something I think nobody has. You may or may not have this Southern Steel record. As I mentioned, 2023 was the year of psychedelic, of Southern rock for me. Southern Steel was also featured on Brown Acid, but it is hard rock, but it has a Southern rock tinge to it. And the LP, more so than the 45, is fully Southern rock. Well, this is rare, but more rare than that is this. Inside this sleeve, you can see, contains a 45. Well, not exactly. It contains the acetate for San Francisco Man. Let's do my best not to drop this on camera, all while being able to show it off here a little bit. San Francisco Man is the tune that we comped on Brown Acid. It's also on the LP, Get On Through. And it's a banger. And I imagine there's probably only one or at most a handful of copies of this acetate. And so you probably don't have that one. All right, She's Great, a record by a female artist that you bought in 2023. Alicia May. This is a private press folk record for people who love Joni Mitchell. If you like Ladies from the Laurel Canyon and laid back folk singer-songwriters, then you're gonna want to hear this. This is like a late 60s version of that, if not maybe even early to mid 70s. But either way, no, I think it is mid 70s. But Skinny Dippin' in the Flowers is the title of the record. I've talked with Alicia May. She's a wonderful human. She's got a great heart, and we sell these records for her on consignment at the shop. They are not cheap, but they are well worth every cent. And you will not find one of these in the wild. The only time I've ever seen one of these is when I got one used copy. We sold it very quickly for $250, and now we sell these on consignment for about the same price in the shop. There's even a thank you to Joni Mitchell in the liner notes on the back. It's a fantastic record for Joni fans. If you don't like Joni Mitchell, this isn't for you. But if you do, and I do, check out Alicia May. Not streaming anywhere but on YouTube, but we're looking to change that next year. Okay, what's next? A favorite video I posted on my channel in 2023. I only have like 6 videos, so I'm just gonna say this is my, oh wait, this is 2024. My favorite video I posted in 2023 was the one where I give you 5 tips on how to keep record stores alive. And the favorite video I watched in 2023, again, I don't watch a lot of YouTube videos, to be honest, but I guess I enjoyed Noble Records' Chris Whitson video. I found that to be a really kind of endearing video in tribute to the deceased son of a family whose record collection Dylan bought, and yeah, that's that. So go watch that one too. No, after this one, of course. All right, a record you described as a 90s classic. Duh, Daydream Nation by Sonic Youth. This is a 90s classic if there ever was one. If you don't have any Sonic Youth, this is a great place to start. It's a gateway drug. This is 90s alternative rock in a nutshell to me. I think Sonic Youth is one of the most important bands of the era, and this is maybe their magnum opus. I really like Sister. I like a lot of Sonic Youth's records. At some point in my life, I tried to collect all of the Sonic Youth records, and there are too many of them. But the studio albums from the late 80s and into the mid 90s are all worth checking out, and Daydream Nation is my favorite, and I would definitely describe it as a 90s classic. Okay, if I could walk into the cover, which record cover would I like to be a part of? This one, Maximilian. Look at these guys. They're like crucified on flowery crosses in the middle of a park somewhere, and they just look cool as hell. I want to hang out with these dudes all day. Maximilian. Daniel and I, we reissued this album for Record Store Day last year, and this thing's amazing. If you like Funkadelic, The Fugs, and what's the other? Oh shoot, I used to have this down. Anyway, if you think like Funkadelic's a little too smooth and not rough enough around the edges, and you wish the Fugs were a little bit funkier, then you should check out Maximilian. These guys are absolutely amazing. They were a three-piece, all African-American, psychedelic, funky rock group. From this album came out in 1969. They released this one LP. Jerry Nolan, fun fact, Jerry Nolan from the New York Dolls, appears on drums here uncredited. Maximilian, peep it, it's killer. Streaming everywhere. You can get the reissue right now at permanentrecordsla.com. All right, moving right along. It's like a greatest hits. Show a record you're so familiar with that it feels like a greatest hits. I spend so much time listening to my own record collection, especially with my radio show now, that I am very familiar with the records that I own, and I comp them on a series called Brown Acid. So every single one of these, and this is the latest one, it came out in October of last year, feels like a greatest hits to me. If you're not already familiar with Brown Acid, it's a compilation series that I curate, shameless self-promotion, and it comes out on Writing Easy Records, and each volume has 10 or so artists that almost all of which self-released 145 back in the day, usually in the late 60s or early 70s, and then disappeared in the sands of time. There's liner notes telling you a little bit about each record. You got the track listing there. We keep it simple. We usually do some kind of fancy colored vinyl scenario, and again, these are readily available. I know it's so strange to know the lyrics to songs that almost nobody in mainstream culture has ever heard before, but I can sing along to every one of these songs and every one of the songs on every other volume of Brown Acid because I spend a lot of time dealing with this material, and I love it. It's what I live for. Brown Acid, peep it. You can buy all of these at permanentrecordsla.com, but you don't have to buy any of them. Feel free to check it out at Spotify or wherever you like to stream music digitally. Bandcamp, YouTube, whatever. It's everywhere. And last but not least, show an album that was released in 1974. This beauty is kind of hard to tell what's going on with this guy, but the album is Joe Pritchard and Gibraltar, and it came out in 1974. These guys are from St. Louis, Missouri. That's where I'm from, so I held this one near and dear. It's a Private Press hard rock record from 1974, and it's gonna get reissued in 2024. Whoa, 50th anniversary. All right, this video has gone on too long. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please like it, send me a comment, subscribe to the channel. Please, let me know that you like it. It's the only reason I'm doing it. I will see you next time.